government do. When we give money, whether it's in healthcare, social services, it has to be evidence, okay? What the evidence tells us, autism and mental health is in together. That's the concerns we have, okay? So this year in the budget, okay, that's I'm giving you some paper here. Just stick together from yesterday. Yesterday. So we are giving, let me see, $2.1 billion for mental health. Because we know there's association with mental health and autism. So we got to start early, okay? The autism piece that we've got to make sure it's on the website. The Ministry of Children and Youth Services has a website in Canton. It simplifies and complex Chinese on the website. You can see it. I can give you the link, okay? So number one that we need to make sure you guys know, that center, the Chinese Autism Awareness Center, you need to incorporate that center, okay? You need to have a board. The organization I could share with you that's getting a lot of money from the government, okay, right now, is the South Asian Autism Center, CAAC, S-A-A-A Center, okay? They just got a couple of big announcements. I just did the announcement for them. One of them, they're building a big multi-purpose room so the children can play. The other piece here is that we also do a lot of work to help young children to give them more opportunity, because you're dealing with a child that needs 24/7 care, okay? So that's why parents will get exhausted, parents get tired, and they get what we call burned out, okay? So we also need to help the grandparents who are here today, okay? So the key piece here is once you get the assessment, we need to provide the help. So for the first time in Canada, the government of Ontario is leading the way to provide the services, okay? It's one thing you don't have a diagnosis, or some parents don't want the diagnosis, and they just sweep it under the floor and they say, see nothing, hear nothing. Once you got diagnosis, now we've got to give you the treatment and the services. So there were a period of time some of the parents got upset with us. We said we cut off for the speech, okay? We know the earlier you intervene with the speech therapy, the better. After 6, we're not very clear it's going to be very workable. But we still fund it right now, okay? That's what the ABBA program, okay? So it's also attached to the school board, okay? So depending, is it a public school board or the Catholic school board, we're working with the teacher, okay? So that's very important. The other piece here is there are a lot of services in terms of funding, okay? The funding is not just about the speech therapist. We want to help the family, okay? We are also funding some of the recreation, because like I said, a lot of children with autism don't know how to play properly. They get shunned, they put it aside, they don't know how to interact, okay? So there is money put aside for that as well, okay? So that you have a dedicated play organization who knows how to deal with children with special needs. Because autism is what they call diagnosed as special needs, okay? So these are students no different than the gifted children. Children and I both know gifted kids are also called special needs, okay? We don't treat the autism children any different with the gifted children. They're called, in our school board, called special needs children, okay? The most important piece is that the family has to work together. Oftentimes, husband do this and wife does that. They don't talk, okay? As a former nurse, I can tell you, this is a chronic condition. It doesn't go away, okay? Just like a kid with Down syndrome, such a kid with cerebral palsy. You have a chronic a disease, no different than diabetes, okay? Husband, wives, family must work together, must work with that child, okay? Because when they fight and they choose the other stuff, that's not the good way, because that's when you have family breakdown, okay? Oftentimes, one family overprotect that child. Overprotect the child, that's dangerous too, okay? So I want to share with you, just last year, there's lots of funding with autism, okay? So we're funding from a maximum of $55 an hour in terms of the behavior, because we know with autistic kids there's a behavioral part. So we need to make sure they know how to behave in school, in a restaurant, in other area, or going to church. Simple thing is going to church, okay? There is funding for that, okay? We also pay for some of the assessment, okay? So we always say work with the pediatrician, work with your family doctors, get the help, okay? Because you cannot do this alone. None of us are that strong, trust me, okay? Because you're dealing with a 24/7 piece. The big piece we have right now is when your child has autism, you need to start working with the school. If your child is 3 years old, this fall they may be going to school in September, you need to start talking to the school early, okay? When you register child, you need to disclose, okay? A lot of times the principal does not know, the teachers don't know, and then they get surprised. Why is Johnny being so aggressive? That's behavior, okay? Or when the child with autism with other diagnoses, meaning allergies or other conditions, you need to tell the teacher, okay? You need to tell the principal. Because at the end of the day, there is different grants, okay? You could receive up to $10,000 dealing with the assessment and the speech, because these speech pathologists is very expensive. That's the reason why the government is intervening early, okay? The other piece is that we need to make sure you are enrolled into the program, okay? It's one thing you've been diagnosed. If you don't register your child, we can't give you the money, okay? We need to be able to count the money because the auditor is coming after me, okay? They say, you give $500 million, where did the money go? Who did you pay? Did you pay your grandmother to do the service? No. Who did you pay? Is it a certified person? We don't want under the table. There has to be receipts, okay? So the autism program is very big. It's under the Ministry of Children and Youth Services. The minister is Michael Cotto, okay? And on the website, it's a very good website, and there is Chinese written there. Simplified and complex Chinese. You can just click, you can read it, okay? It's very, very important. The family needs to get registered. And the fact here is, all the school now knows about, the school board knows about this, okay? So they won't be surprised, trust me, okay? The teacher knows about, because right now, we're also training some of the teacher to deal with the ABB, okay? So that they be certified in the school, okay? So that's what's very, very important. The other piece is that we could give you direct funding. We can give you $8,000 saying you go buy your service and you negotiate the services, okay? But we want receipts. Okay, you can't do it under the table, okay? We don't believe everybody pay taxes, okay? This is one thing I get very upset, okay? Because I give you cash, I want a discount. No, this is Canada, we pay taxes, okay? This is where we get into trouble. Because what is the taxes go? Taxes go somewhere. Taxes paying for this autism program. Taxes paying for the hospital, okay? So do not say taxes is bad. This is the tax right now, okay? So if we give you $8,000, if we assess, you deserve $8,000 a year to deal with the program, we want receipts. So you cannot say I pay cash. No. I want receipt to prove it that you have get the service, okay? And the therapist who's treating your child also has to have a receipt. It goes both ways because they have to file income tax. Okay, so none of this stuff paying cash. Okay, I get very upset when I see that kind of stuff. Somebody knows that piece. Okay. The other piece here is not one program is good for a child. Okay, so that's why parents have to assess. Not all therapists is good for a child. Okay, so you have a choice as parents. So there are different programs you need to find out, assess, test. Bring your child there, see if they have a relationship with the therapist. If it's not good, the child doesn't want to go, you can see by the behavior, you take them out, okay? That's why the government's giving the parents with autism more choices, okay? The parents is driving this, not the government of Ontario. We're the funder, we give you the money. Here's your $8,000, but we want proof. That's a receipt, okay? But you have to demonstrate to us that the program is working. Not, you gotta move. Because if the child's not doing well after 5 or 6 months, you gotta get out of there. Why would you put more money in there? Okay, that's not good, okay? So there are different programs, different models, okay? So we want to make sure if you have a child right now in Ontario, there's stuff to support you as mothers, as fathers, as grandparents, and through the center, we will give you support. I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, the Trillium Foundation, this is the largest foundation in Canada. Trillium is the flower of Ontario. The money comes from the government of Ontario. We gave $150,000 to the South Asian Autism Center to build a multi-purpose room for the children to play. Okay? They also have, the autistic kids are very artistic. They know how to draw. They may not be able to speak. Oh, thank you. This is perfect. Thank you. So the Autism Center, this is in Scarborough, okay? Geeta is the executive director. So she has multiple parts. She has an art exhibit. So the children draw and they sell the art to raise more money. Okay, that's one. So Geeta now doing, really smart lady, she's been at it for a long time. She's now helping the high school students and the older students to get jobs. So, and a couple of the kids now working in the restaurant. And I know the restaurant because I go to the restaurant, check those kids out. Okay? So don't be afraid to tell. Don't be afraid to talk about it. The key piece is the government of Ontario is helping these autistic families. The autistic children and the family needs a lot of support, from very young to very old. As they're getting older, the problem gets bigger, okay? It doesn't get smaller, it gets bigger, okay? So right now we have another funding called the Ontario Disability Plan, or DSP, okay? That particular plan is for young people 18 or over, they're like adults. That funding helps, they have to be applying, because if they reapply, they now get a stipend every month because they have disability, okay? Just because you're disabled does not mean you can't go to work. That's nonsense, okay? So we know Tim Horton, McDonald's, different restaurants hire these autistic kids and do a good job. Very good job, okay? So we also change a law in this budget that if you make some money, I think they've gone up to $300, $300 or $400 now. In the old days, it's $200. They keep the money before they give it back to the government, okay? Because they get a stipend every month, okay? So we are also very concerned right now. We have autistic kids. They're not kids anymore. They're adults. They're in the 30s. They're in the 40s. But they have a mother and father in the 70s. They can't look after each other. So we also worry about them too, okay? So just remember that the government of Ontario, through your taxes, is providing $500 million. That's a lot of zeros, okay? But you have to apply. You don't apply, you don't get anything, okay? Applying means you have to tell somebody. You have to talk to a doctor. You have to talk to somebody, professionals, okay? Everything is online. There's a caseworker, okay? We have the autism program province-wide, okay? Depending where you live, there's a caseworker that manages the file, okay? And that person will, what we call navigate, because it's very complex, okay? Because one part of it is dealing with children and social services, another part dealing with healthcare. So we were ready this past January, giving free medication prescribed by the doctor under 25. So the child may have some medication needs, right? Then you have those recreation social support services. So in your negotiation, your $8,000 or $10,000 that you're managing that money, you can buy a special recreation program through different YMCA or the other group to help kids, specialized children with special needs. So you navigate that piece, okay? But we will not be able to give you the money if you don't apply and you have no receipts, okay? The government will not allow you to pay under the table. Everything has to be receipts, everything has to be above board, because the auditor, we have the Auditor General in Ontario, she audits every ministry. When we put away that much money, they're going to be audited, I can tell you right now. If you don't have proof, they'll cut you off, okay? So it goes both ways, but I want to say to each one of you, do not give up. It is complicated, it is difficult, it's not easy, but we are leading. We're the only province giving that much money. We're the only province giving that much money to autistic children and the families, okay? Not just in 2-year-old, 3-year-old, but also in school. So all the elementary school, high school teachers, they're all ready to support these children. Because we know if they don't succeed, it's going to cost Ontario more money. That's what we said earlier, that it's not just about the child and the family, the society as a whole. Because I've seen a lot of autistic kids doing very well.
Yeah.
They're contributing, they have a job, they get on the bus every day, they do all kinds of great things. But we cannot overprotect them, because that's what happens, right? Because we want to make decisions for them. They're young people like everybody else. They have to make their own mistakes, okay? Does anybody have any question for me? And Shirley may want to add something.
I do. So that's all the details about the long road you're on if you're starting at the age of 3. I'm way further down the road. Margaret, I thank Margaret for inviting me to join you as well. And Margaret probably invited me because I have a similar background to Sue Wong, and probably invited me because I am running to join Sue in government. I'm running in Don Valley North as a Liberal candidate, but that's not why I accepted the invitation.
No, I think
I accepted the invitation because I never send regrets when I have an invitation to speak with autistic parents, because I am one. My daughter has autism and she is 28, so I'm way further down my journey of a 28-year-old. Sue was very frank, and she spoke a little bit about how hard this is in Chinese culture. But I want you to know it isn't always all that different. I was very excited when you said that your parents were here. Grandma and Grandpa are here. Raise your hands. I almost cried when she said her parents were here. I want you to know something. Martha, my daughter Martha, was diagnosed when she was 3, and followed about 6 years where we didn't have any help from our grandparents. Martha's grandparents on both sides thought I was a bad parent. They thought that I should just give a spanking, or I should be more strict, and my husband should make me do that. We had a lot of family fighting, and every time I speak to people in different cultures, they say that's because of our culture, and then I say no, it's not. Every family that I meet with, there's been that early time. Sorry. Yeah. I wouldn't upset her. Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very hard, and it happens in a lot of families. There's a grandma or a grandpa or an aunt or an uncle who says, no, it's your fault. But you know, when the longer you get down the road, that eventually the family is going to realize that we do have a special child. And I can tell you this, eventually they all gather around. Martha, at 28 now, really has the understanding of all the aunts and uncles, all 4 grandparents. My mother, who's passed away, was the first one to come around. As a grandma, she started to realize, Martha got to her, she was 9, and my mother realized, I have to accept this. There's something going on here, and got very involved. And so at whatever point the family joins in, you know that things are going to get better, because you do have to follow up. Every single thing Sue told you, you have to follow up. And so it means there'll be babies coming along, the baby brothers and the baby sisters, and someone's got to watch the kids, because you've got to follow up another one of those leads, get that passport funding and move on to another program. So you bring the whole family along. I always, I never say, if I meet, I don't say, do you have an autistic child, or are you autistic? I say, is your family living with autism? Because that's what it is. If one child has autism, your family is now living with autism. And once you get that understood, then all of this filling out forms and all the things you have to do get easier. The provincial government in Ontario is a leader. Every other province says, oh, they're doing that now. Let's figure out if we can do it too. And that's largely due to people like Sue, Michael Cotto, Kathleen Wynne. They're all people who dealt directly with this while they were in the school board or in some part of their professional life. Sue is a nurse, Michael Cotto is a social worker. We have an unusually strong number of people who have lived through helping families who are living with autism get the services, and each of us experienced a service that's missing. And that's why we have all the people that are able to start filling in the services that are missing. I have to confess, Kathleen is now focused on adults with autism because she has a friend who has an adult with autism at home. And that's been a really tough thing. The system up until a few years ago was sort of designed as if it looked as if your child graduates and they're cured. And we know that isn't the case. The best program that I've visited yet for adults with autism was in Hong Kong. I'm now trying to copy what the Nesbitt Center does in Hong Kong for adults in Canada. A Canadian mom and a Chinese mom got together and said, okay, now what do we do? Our kids have finished school. And they built an education and employment center and actually ended up opening a chain of coffee shops. They have a coffee store that is right beside where you get off the Star Ferry, and every staff member in it has autism. And so there are ways, there are lots of ways, but it starts with realizing you're a family that lives with autism. And from there, everything else from there on starts to fall into place because you support each other through it. Centers like this, as long as everyone's coming to it, it works. That's why taking the mentorship of the South Asian families with autism, and they will. They don't be only too happy to mentor this group to get stronger and stronger. There's no question about that. Wonderful, wonderful people. There are services at Adventure Place that will help any group like this so that the group can be local. You do so much driving around to a hospital or a center. Our children, the children who have special needs, and particularly those with autism, it's ironic. The very kids that have trouble making friends tend to be the ones we put on a school bus and say, your school is in another neighborhood. All these kids are going to walk down the street to school, but we have a special program for you, but you got to get on a bus and go a long way away. So we band together family and neighbors and make sure that they really do have a community close to where they live. That becomes your assignment, really. But if you do that, you'll back me up on this. It is actually the most rewarding parenting you'll ever do. My mother-in-law said to me, and you know, I don't know what, each of you will have a different feeling faith-wise, but my mother-in-law always says, God gives the children who need special parents to special parents.
Yes.
And so that's why you have this child, because you're up to it. You might not think you are at the age of 3, but you get to where they're 20 and 25 and you realize, I guess I was up to it. Yeah. You really are. I know that this is the toughest time. At this age of 3, you're not sure you can do it. My whole family wasn't. My daughter we would go to a shopping mall, and as Martha felt socially awkward and would pick the wrong time to pretend to be a dog because it just relaxed her somehow. And so walking through Fairview Mall, her older sister would pretend she didn't know her and walk this way. And her dad would go, you got this, haven't you? And he would walk that way. And I would be stuck with the 3-year-old who was barking like a dog, still not potty trained. And you know, because they felt, oh, we're being judged now. But you get to the end of it and you realize eventually people come around and there is compassion in this community. Yes. It just takes a while for them to figure out what's going on and then they're there for you. But connecting up to all the things that Sue went through really will mean that your journey is actually going to be way easier than mine. Because if we go back 25 years, Sue went through a whole binder and I was counting the pages as she went through the programs. And I thought, there were about 2 pages when Martha was 3. There's now a binder full of things. So we're making progress, but you start to embrace and make use of all that progress as soon as you realize we're a family that lives with autism. So start your journey, and I would be very happy to be on it with you as a resource. I'm here, Helen. Okay.
So 我来讲2、3句话就可以了你们都听到王淑美讲的东西，还有 Shelly 讲的，他们每一个人都有亲身的经历来跟你们谈。苏是一个护士，她看到很多这类的人。Shelly 有亲生的女儿，是经历过这个路途。我是一个社会工作者。所以我们大家都有亲身的经历在这方面。我想讲一样东西，要是没有他们2个境界的人来帮我们忙，去拿钱的话，去 advocate 去提醒的话，政府不会给我们钱。Okay, so I'm just saying, without 2 of you's personal interaction with the government out there and provide the funding and advocates for us, we are not going to be successful. Right? 所以我想跟你们讲，因为现在的情况是最重要的，政府把钱拿了下来，那我们要把那个钱技术的拿到 ，OK, continuously have the funding。因为小孩子，刚刚他们2个都讲过，小孩子不是今天就好了，明天就没事了，小孩子是永远的技术的，当他们小一到大都要照顾，所以那些funding 那些钱是应该跟小一直到远那里都要，所以我们需要他们2个人帮我们在政府那里talk to the government, get the funding, continue the funding, and add the funding, OK? 所以这个很重要。所以我这次跟就是代表他们2个，我晓得他们2个不会讲这个话，那我不是进谏的话，那我可以跟大家讲，因为大选快要开始了。希望你们尽可能的话，help each other out，你晓得这个是很重要的，大家一定要合起来一起做这个事情。OK，Thank you。
再次感谢这个3位的议员苏晃、Sherry 和 Margaret， 再次感谢你们。借此机会，希望我们华人的社区呢，大家能够团结一致，我们让更多的朋友参与，所以呢，我们能够拿到更多的funding来，我们做更多的事情。这样这是我们的目的。我希望我们一定能够做到这个事情。只要有今天天气这么不好。我们没有想到，在4月份的多伦多还有这样子的天气。我们当时设定这个日子的时候，认为应该是春暖花开，应该是天气非常好的时候来欢迎大家到来。但是在这样的天气下，我们还有 Sherry 和苏晃，还有 Margaret， 我们还到场，非常非常感谢。我们还有这样子的家庭，还有所有的义工，都能到场来支持，我们非常非常的感谢。所以呢，有这样子的开始。我们相信我们华人社区的这个活动一定要继续，要坚持，要做出更多的事情，做出更大的奉献。这是我们今天的这个活动，我觉得非常非常的感动。因为大家时间都非常忙，我想有一个提议，就是我们在后面我们会谈具体的事情，我们可以下来聊天，我们可以吃东西。在此之前，我们能不能一起合一个影，作为我们这个活动的一个开始？因为我担心一会儿的时间晚了，可能有的人要先离场什么这样子的，所以我们先照